friends. Welcome to a very special edition of Law today. We're actually not talking about anti-chess. We're going to talk about atomic, and I have a very special guest, Henry, aka Sequela. How are you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about our little challenge.
Right. So you probably might know Sequela as one of the best anti-chess players going around, but in this sense, we tried something a little different. And as a kind of a challenge, I had a chat to Henry and said, we should start just having a match of something completely different that we both know nothing about and see how it goes. And we decided on playing Atomic for 2 weeks, with the stipulation that we have to study for 1 hour every day during that time. And at the end of that 2 weeks, we and him are going to have a final 10-match series and see what we've learned and see the results. So that is the basic thing about the challenge. I'm going to talk now about how it felt during it, because there were certainly some up and downs. And I think we probably had an expectation, oh yeah, we're going to crush this really easily. We're going to get to a 1900 rating, no problem. No, that's not exactly what happened. So what Henry's going to show us, a little bit of a graph about our performance over those first couple of weeks. And let's just say things didn't go quite according to plan. You think we know the rules basically, maybe, all right, don't lose in the first 3 or 4 moves. But after that, there is quite a bit of theory you need to know, especially as a bit of the results. So the early on stuff was all provisional. It doesn't really matter too much about the ratings there. But you can kind of see maybe after 3 or 4 days, we're around 1700, which is not too bad after only playing about 50 games. And then I had a real kind of low point. And why that happened, I lost about over 100 points playing 1-0. That killed me. I think the feeling was, oh, well, let's try to get some pattern recognition. Don't worry if I lose some games, but hadn't expected things to go that bad. Whereas I think Henry was a bit more consistent. So yeah, you can see that big drop, and then both our gradual increases. So yeah, that 1-0 was a real low point for me, but we kicked through it. I started studying and getting better, and I found around maybe day 7 or 8, I was getting really comfortable with things and definitely improving a lot. So Henry, how about you? How did you find the whole challenge over the 2 weeks?
I found it really, really fun. It was not entirely fun. There was a lot of low moments. It wasn't always fun playing an hour of Atomic every day or learning Atomic every day. I also played a lot of 1-0, played a lot of hourly tournaments. That was my main go-to. 1-0 hourlies. I didn't have the drop-off that you did, although I might have a bit more experience with 1-0. It's my preferred time control. But, I found it interesting. It's a different game than I thought it was going to be. I thought Atomic was just all smash and grab. And actually, it's quite positional. There's a lot of, which is no surprise to any Atomic players, but there's a lot of strategy. And, I was pleasantly surprised. But I think, it wasn't until about day 10 that I feel like I really hit my groove. And I think we both ended up at a point where we felt like we're not falling for opening traps. That was my main goal. Atomic is very opening trap dominant, and my main goal was to get through and basically try and not fall for one of these various traps. And I feel like I got there in the end. So
I think when we saw this hump, and that's what I found after a week, and the sort of study I was doing, I was kind of watching a couple of videos online, and then I was looking at studies. But I think what really helped me was I kind of got on Stockfish and just belted out a few games and analyzed every time, and then got to a position where I thought, all right, now I can be comfortable playing things as white and black and not lose quickly. And then I felt, okay, I'm understanding this game. And what the videos kind of helped were more for the later game strategies. I mean, once you get through the opening minefield, then yeah, there is a bit to it, a few positional elements, a bit of, but we're going to see that later. We've got some example games. So basically, what we want to show you is some of the highlights. I've named this segment "The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly." It was probably the best game I had, and then well, some very other couple of not so good positions. Anyway, so let's go to the first one, and I will need to change my window. Go. All right, so this is the game, and you can see this is the opening we've learned, the most common opening. So if you're a seasoned Atomic player, you might be throwing up looking at this, as I found, but this is the main line, and we had to kind of learn this first. So playing through these first few moves, this F5 one's interesting. That leads to a queen trade. This is all book. All right, so my book ends about here. But why this game was good, I had a couple of very nice tactics. But the whole point is white's sort of up here, but what they're trying to do is push this F pawn up and get this rook kind of in here, and then threatening to come down to the king. So we'll see what happened. Sacrifice. In the same push plan. Okay, but I think I'm still kind of safe. Black hasn't really pushed yet. And now I've developed my pieces. And even though that F file is open now, I have this nice discovered check, and my knight can now infiltrate. So I'm pretty happy about my position now. White should be winning this. Stop that threat. Trade. That's check. So that stops the rook kind of getting in there to cause problems. All right, so this position white is doing very well. However, what you can't actually see on the time is I have about 5 seconds left here. So I need to stop this kingside advance. Now I sacrifice the bishop. However, now I have about 2 seconds left. And it's not, maybe in a chess game, I could win this very easily in 2 seconds, just pre-moving. But with Atomic, it was the added pressure of having to work out the strategy after this. So now it's not so easy just getting a queen. I need to manipulate things. And with 2 seconds, it's not going to be easy. So I have to pre-move a lot and then try to figure out a strategy to win. And here I had the strategy of removing this pawn. So now I have this little escape out. And what my strategy is to have queen take this pawn here and have my king run out through the side. But I have to be very, very quick. And this is the winning idea. King takes pawn. That was one of my better games against the 1900 plus player. Now for the bad. All right, so it looks like my position isn't too bad. However, after this move, I resigned the game. And this is the bad part. Now, I actually resigned in a position after I analyzed later that I was 10 points ahead. And it just was not obvious to me. Now, I thought threatening mate here, after g6, queen h6, I can't stop the queen getting in, I'm going to lose. But there's a very nice continuation that I did miss. Knight d3, and having to play king e2, bishop c5, and now white is forced to do queen takes bishop. Black is clearly winning. So that was the bad, unfortunately. And the ugly, well, this was just kind of funny. So I was black here, and this was a game I played on chess.com. I was messing around playing a newbie player, and of course I get this position. I'm clearly winning, and I just think, okay, well let's go for the checkmate here, and lining it up next move. So this, that's mate. Oh, wait a minute, and I don't. Checkmate, to my horror, I realized that, of course, explosion takes precedence over mate, and white can play h checks g7. But I was very, very fortunate. My opponent was so low rated they couldn't work out what to do. I think they also thought they lost, and they ran out of time. So it was an ugly way to win, but that was one of the things to learn along the atomic journey. All right, so Henry, over to you. Let's see your good, bad, and ugly.
Absolutely, yeah. Learning those sequences of moves and what takes precedent over what is part of the journey. I have a couple of those examples myself. I'll start with a good game, a game I'm reasonably proud of. So this is a game actually follows the same opening of your good game. So I'm playing white here. And so we have a knight f3, and we have this defense again. And so again, black will trade queens, and I'm going to try and explode some of his pieces. All very standard stuff, but like in RTP's game, black here has the idea of trying to push down their f-pawn. And so we'll see this in just a few moves. Right, so black's trying to push down his f-pawn. He's trying to get his rook in. He's trying to explode my king. All pretty scary stuff for white. The reason why I like this game, though, is I found a move, and I'd encountered this position a few times. I found a move here that seems to be quite good for white. So coming up soon, it's this king across one. The idea is to dodge the attack to get away from this file. And my argument here is that my king's actually quite safe. It looks scary, but I think it's quite safe. So the game keeps going. I don't want to open up that file. So we see here now I'm actually up 2 pieces, and my plan here is if I can trade down the pieces and just prevent this rook from getting in, I should be fine. Does get a bit scary here. Looks like the bishop and pawn together are going to pose a pretty big threat to my king, but actually I think my king's still quite safe. And I think he starts to realize that too, so he tries to get his rook in, but as you'll see, he doesn't quite have enough squares, and I end up winning this game. And he resigned here because my bishop, my 2 bishops prevent his rook from getting in. So I was quite happy with this game. It shows that you can still play around some very scary threats, and I think this opponent was quite high rated. So, but I'll go on to some. I'll go on to my funny game. So I have a game here. This is the bad game, and the reason why this is a bad game. This is a very low rated opponent, and I'm playing white, and so I mean it's a pretty good position. I think I'm up a piece, but the reason why this is bad is my opponent plays a blunder on the next move, and I should definitely take this bishop and explode his queen and bishop. But one thing I learned in Atomic is I'm very bad at noticing these threats. And so instead of doing this move, I instead decided to attack his queen. That's a huge blunder. It allows him to swing his queen across and actually generate a pretty strong attack. So now, he's attacking my king pawn. It's a mate in one threat. So this is all quite forcing. He attacks again. And he attacks again. And so I should take his queen here. But again, I decide it's safe enough to block. And I missed this move. I once again missed the exploding, the fact that when a pawn explodes, it destroys pieces in a 1 square radius.
It takes a few days just to get used to that concept, I think. Like it's such a foreign concept that you're just not thinking about it. But once we practice, we start to notice that more.
And so he finds it, and the game's over. And that's unfortunate, but I'll show you. It can sometimes work in your favor too, because I think a lot of people have difficulty with these moves. So this is the ugly. This is an ugly way to win, but I play black here. It looks terrible, right? He's got a queen, he's got a pawn, a passed pawn on the 7th rank, and looks like mate. And so, right, it looks like I should lose this. And of course, he promotes to queen. It looks like a checkmate. In normal chess, this would be a very strange position, but it'd definitely be a very dangerous position. But my opponent missed the fact that I can take both queens. And not only that,
That's nice.
in several moves, my opponent loses this game. So that's just a classic example of not understanding the fact that pieces will explode in a radius, and happens to him, happens to me. So and I guess we can probably move on to our match that we played, right?
Absolutely. So, like I said earlier, we're at the conclusion of our 2 weeks. We've had our big match, and while our ratings were in the 1700s, I think we're much stronger than that because it took a lot of time to get back from 1500s. When we played tournaments, I think I was performing around 1900 last few days, and so was Henry. I think the standard we'd hoped would be pretty good, and let's see what happened. Now we're not going to go through all the games because it's too many, but there's a couple of highlights we're going to quickly talk about. So I think the first game, Henry was white, and really white has a big advantage in Atomic. So really, if you're black, you're just trying to scramble. Even a draw would be pretty good. But yeah, Henry can you go through this first game because you won.
Right. And so this is the atomic attack. This is if you're an atomic player, you might know this is a very common opening. I think it might be one of the main lines, but so we see this sequence of moves. And the idea here is that white's going to trade off his queen for a ton of pieces, and as we'll see, we see this position where I guess the white has many pawns, but black can explode a few pieces here. So that's the general position. And so we keep going. This is probably slightly better for white, and black's just really trying to trade down, potentially look for a draw, I think, but we'll see what happens. Right. So now black's on the defensive. I'm going to keep trying to get my rook in. I'm going to try and attack that king. And black's going to try and attack me. But I think what you'll see is that white's just a little bit faster here. Black can always defend if I come in to attack. I'm just trying to keep that rook out, and
Get the rook in here. I thought, oh, if I can just, yeah, get in there, I can get a perpetual, but the pawn's blocked it.
of course now my king's defended, my rook can come in. And try as he might, my rook's going to come in and eventually trade himself off, and now it's just a pawn race to a queen. And this blockade was the final try for black, but thwarted, and I thought that was a pretty good first game to our match.
Very nice. All right, so next.
So we actually had the same opening.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny. This was it. But I had a slight variation here. And when I was in the process of my hourly studying every day, I happened across this move, Queen C5, just to a little bit of confusion tactics. Very similar sort of thing, but might have thrown off Henry a little bit. And now black can defend this, but it's still I like white's position. So I'd prepared most of this. And yeah, I'm not worried about Queen F5. And now I think Henry makes a mistake on move 13. What he didn't see is after doing Queen 6 C2, Rook C1 is game over. The rook's in, and it's undefensible. So that was game 2.
Nice.
1-1, but the third game I think was probably one of the most interesting ones. And
just back up. Right. So this game we're 1-1, and we had a slightly different opening, but I mean, I don't know if any of us knew what we were doing here. We were just playing some moves. I think we both said afterwards that we'd not really looked at this position that much, but nevertheless. So, black's trying to pin the knight. I'm trying to attack the pawn. It's all pretty standard stuff here right now. We see some moves. I have to take that knight. And the queen comes in. So I think black's slightly better here. He's got himself a pawn or two, but the game's not over yet. I'm just trying to weasel my knight or my rook in and generate some threats, but black's doing a good job at defending. We trade. And now I'm in trouble. I can't take. The rook's coming in. I have to go defensive here now.
last pawn.
Now here, there's 3 pawns coming. I think, my only chance here is to try and blockade this pawn.
Yeah, that was a really good idea. I think that probably saved the game for you. And while black's still better, yeah, it just makes it a little bit trickier for me.
So we see some more moves. Black's going to try and get through in the center. Now
Yeah, okay, so that was a mistake. I was getting a bit low time here, and that was a bit of an impatient move, taking that pawn. So I think now what I missed was after white moves the bishop, white's other rook can get in and force the draw, and that's what happened.
So we'll see that. And although these pawns are scary, and had black been castled here or had a few more moves, I think black would have won, but there's just no way to avoid this draw.
Oh, well, I guess that wouldn't have helped there. Yeah, now it's draw.
It's a game drawn. And so here's
All
where
right.
things get interesting for me. We move on to game 4.
All right. Now, game 4 was the turning point. Now, I was pretty happy with the draw as black, but I probably should have converted. But now I'd prepared this opening I'd never played before. Now, every other game I was playing knight f3, e3, but I happened across this novel little e4 knight h3 opening, and I did a bit of preparation. Thought this is nice. This is a bit tricky, and I think I might get some good positions. And I think I might have shocked you a bit, Henry.
Yeah, I didn't know how to deal with this knight h3 opening.
So now
This is tough.
interestingly, Henry didn't play into any of the traps though that I prepared, so it didn't actually help me. None of my preparation. The only help was really the psychological advantage of playing something new. So yeah, black is still okay here.
It's very scary to play this though as black. You have to play all the right moves.
So it's getting dicey now. Like all these pieces on pre, and then this was kind of the interesting thing about Atomic, because I mean, obviously, anti-chess you can't have too many pieces on, like you get very difficult calculations. But yeah, I didn't realize Atomic can also be this complex and have all these pieces on pre too. Um, we kind of this is a nice little try here, just a little in between move, but black responds to it all right. Take the queen next move. Yeah, so now I open this up, and I think this is probably starting to be the beginning of the end.
Yeah. I just have no.
Absolutely deadly. Yeah, well, I've got two bishops in there, which should win the game pretty simply. So yeah, I think I fluffed around for a few more moves before I won, but yeah, I mean this is already pretty devastating. Yeah, white should win this fairly easily.
This next game we won't look at, but so I'm down 2.5, 1.5 here. I really needed a win for white, and unfortunately, in this next game, I ran out of time. We won't look at it. It was another mainline opening, and put me in a bad spot because, of course, I ended up losing the following game to another game that very much looked like this. Another knight h3, just smash and grab. And it all came down to this last game.
Yeah, so Henry came back and crushed me in game 7 very easily, but now I'm still up 4.5 to 2.5. This is the final game, and again I have lovely e4 knight h3. Henry's still trying to find something different. And my knight's getting in there, and this is already looking pretty dangerous. I think my knight's kind of the MVP in this game. And interestingly, like I didn't even take the queen. I'd rather keep the knight there. That's how good it is.
Yeah, this is awful.
I mean, here I could even do queen takes d7 if I want, but there's lots of opposite options. I can trade the queens. That comes in. All right, and it just kind of gets worse from there. I mean, yeah, well, white is clearly gonna win that game, and that was it. So 5.5 to 2.5, but still, like pretty close overall, despite the result. The games were still really good, and that was the conclusion of the challenge.
Well, we didn't get to show, but we actually had played a couple of Atomic games. I think maybe some of the first Atomic games we'd ever played about a month before this match, and they were just terrible. We had no idea what we were doing, and so we were pretty proud of ourselves with this little series. We had some pretty close games. RTP won, but I think this was a culmination of our 2 weeks of effort right here.
Yeah, and I think upon reflection after the challenge, you know, like I said, there was highs and lows. I mean, we both were like, "Oh, I want to quit this now." Like it was just horrible at certain times, but we pushed through and did it. And I think it was really rewarding to accomplish something like this. To really, I mean, not master a game, but to get, you know, pretty good in 2 weeks. And I think we both accomplished that pretty well. Um, yeah, I think Henry made his 1800 rating later too. So yeah, but I don't know if we'll continue playing. It was probably just a novelty. I don't see myself suddenly taking up Atomic now, but yeah, it was really cool.
I can say that I definitely gained an appreciation for Atomic. I thought it was a bit more smash and simple and just brute force, you know, throw all the pieces at the king. But as
Unbalanced. Black now has no chance, but yeah, Black does have lots of chances of good play. There is more of an edge than this and others, but yeah, it's still a playable game for sure.
right, but because this is an anti-chess channel, I actually had the idea that maybe we could play some Atomic on chess.com, but not just Atomic. I thought maybe we could play some.
But it's basically you still have to lose all your pieces, anti-chess rules, but the Atomic rules apply in it. So let's have a fun game with this. Finish off with.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game.
There's no book for this. There's no rhyme or reason.
This is like Atomic, but you have to capture the pieces. I don't think either of us know what we're doing here.
I don't know. I really love doing it. We just got to lose the pieces somehow. So, all right.
It's hard to evaluate who's winning here. I think it's hard to say. Right, okay. Looks pretty level, but of course, who knows?
I don't know. Good, I won this. I don't know if that's good or bad.
This actually looks like an anti-chess position. And this would be an okay anti-chess move.
Just swap off. I don't know. One of the stalemate rules still apply. I guess, yeah, I guess it's still anti-chess rules. So,
My only thinking here is I don't want his pawn to get through. But I mean, maybe I win here. I have more pieces. Is that good?
I might be able Down. Oh, okay, you can force that. That's good.
Right.
But I think I'm gonna win now. There you go.
I have to take that. Right, that was a strange game, but
You know what that reminds me of, Henry? It's like, you know, people that have no idea about anti-chess, but you're just saying, I'm just going to sacrifice everything. And I think that is actually the strategy in this game. There's no deep tactics. It's just get rid of stuff as soon as I can. And that's it.
yeah, you were better at it than me.
Oh, I wonder who's like 2400 at this game. I don't know, maybe someone in the anti-chess or atomic community can let us know if you got any tips or played this game. But yeah, I mean, that's the challenge, and I hope you all enjoyed it as much as we did. Saw a bit of those highlights. Maybe if you don't know anything about Atomic, you learned something. If you are an Atomic player, maybe you found it interesting to see how new players learn how to play, and those were the kind of resources that we used.
Yeah, and thanks for inviting me to do this challenge. I probably will stick with anti-chess. I'm better at it. It's more fun when you're better at something, but you know, I might play occasionally.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much, Henry, for doing the challenge with me. I would not have done this myself. I would have quit after 3 days, I'm sure, but we saw it through. So anyway.